This is just pure Marxism coming out of the mouth of the Pope. There's no such unfettered capitalism. That doesn't exist anywhere. Unfettered capitalism is a liberal socialist phrase to describe the United States.
That was Rush Limbaugh recently attacking the Pope. But this weekend, Pope Francis responded, telling an Italian newspaper, quote, "Marxist ideology is wrong, but I have met many Marxists in my life who are good people, so I don't feel offended." Of course, the Pope was also named Time Magazine's Person of the Year, and we are back now with the Roundtable. So, Cokie, I've got to ask you, after a year of Pope Francis.
Not quite, March 13th.
What?
So he's not even been a year, but it's been a remarkable year.
What kind of an impact? I mean, he's shaking up the church.
He's shaking up the church. He's got people loving him. Our ABC poll shows him with a 92% approval rating among Catholics and among non-Catholics in the 60s, twice what Benedict had. He's fun, he's loving, he's kind, he's humble, and people are responding to that. But he's also saying very important things. And what he's saying is basically what Jesus said. And why this is making people puzzled is a very interesting thing. They clearly have not spent much time with reading the New Testament.
This Pope is spectacular, Jonathan. You know, I'm a Catholic, and I can tell you that I was very disappointed with the structures of the church. I think what he has done to rehabilitate the church in a short 9-month period is amazing. Church attendance is up all over the world. He has shown a heart. He has put the focus of the church back where it needs to be, amongst the poor. He has shown compassion. And, you know, I'm telling you, after this Pope, I think we only go for Latino popes. We're only doing Latins after this guy.
Well, you know, I think that he had the temerity to take on supply-side trickle-down economics. That does not make him a Marxist, however. And I think that what he was saying is something that a lot of people, not only in the United States, but everywhere around the world, are concerned about, and that is a widening inequality, the kind of savagery of that widening inequality in terms of what it is doing to our societies.
And let me ask you, Mr. Gingrich, Speaker, when you look at that issue of inequality, and this is something he's put front and center, the Pope has, it's something, of course, that President Obama talks a lot about. We saw the story about homelessness in New York, stark reality of the gap in the nation's biggest city. Is this an issue that Republicans should be talking about?
Absolutely. I mean, how can you justify the level of wealth in those big towers in New York City, right, and the level of poverty in those alleys? Absolutely. And without talking about government, say, surely a society that cared, that believed every person was endowed by their creator with the right to pursue happiness, would come up with a better solution than 22,000 children that are homeless. And I think that the Republican Party has an obligation to rethink some of its indifference to the very poor. And I think the Democrats have an obligation to ask themselves, after 50 years of the war on poverty, isn't it clear the government is not a very good
Well, except for that, wait a minute, hold on here. Public policy actually does make a difference.
Mr. Secretary. The war on poverty, which next year we are going to celebrate the 50th anniversary, in addition to the Civil Rights Act, the war on poverty was successful for a time. What has happened, however, over the last 30 years, is that much of the ardor, much of the concern, much of what propelled that war on poverty has dissipated.
Well, it's also true, though,
after 5 years of President Barack Obama, we see the problem worse.
Well, the problem is worse. I think it has something to do, perhaps, with the intransigence of the Speaker's party, because every time there was a jobs bill, every time there was an effort to expand low-income housing, every time there was an effort to provide better opportunities for young people. We're talking about equal opportunity. Equal opportunity is at the basis
this is baloney.
Of this. What is baloney?
Here's the baloney. Every major city which is a center of poverty is run by Democrats. Every major city.
Yes.
Their policies have failed. You're not willing to admit it. And the fact is, it's the poor who suffer from bad.
Wait a minute. First of all, Bloomberg is not a Democrat. And secondly, what's happening in America?
A lot of these public
policies. We've had a Democrat in New York for 20 years.
What's happening in America is happening all over America, and it is happening in a way that has to do with the fact that median wages are going nowhere,
right,
and rents are going up, and there is absolutely no response in Washington or elsewhere, particularly, Newt, I'm surprised you are not.
All right, we are unfortunately out of time. Obviously, a subject we will come back to.